Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Kirsten. I do have a couple of people that need to enter as attendees, so I've put the webinar in conduct mode, and we are also currently broadcasting on YouTube.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Excuse me, Mayor, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Hello, Mayor. I noticed that we have an attendee. I think her name is Danette Fagness, and I'm not sure whether or not she's somebody that's part of a presentation this evening.
Oh, okay.
I can help. Kirsten, she is not. She's a member of the public for one of the committee reports items.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Brian.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Kristen. Kirsten, I don't know what happened. Usually when Marty's gone, the consent agenda is a novel.
I know I got lucky, but we have a lot of committee reports tonight.
Hello, John.
Mayor, I
Mayor, you got my note about attendees?
Sorry, Brian, was that for me?
Yeah, did you get my note about absence?
I know that Mirta is absent this evening. Did you just send it, Brian?
A little ways ago. I believe that John Contos is gone. Jesse sent a note that he is engaged with wedding stuff. And Mirta, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I knew about Mirta, but did not know about the others, so I appreciate it.
Yep.
And I'm glad you are safe and sound.
Me too. I'm glad I got the boiler running.
I bet, yeah. Winter weather. Had to show up sometime, apparently.
Yeah, 90 was, whew.
Marty's gone, so her sub or her assistant's here, but there's been no noise. I wonder.
Mr. Nugent? Counselor? Jim Nugent? Got a question for you.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Kirsten. We have the Zoom meeting recording and that's broadcasting. We're broadcasting on YouTube. We seem to be having some technical difficulty with the broadcast of the Zoom meeting through our city website. I
Okay.
have sent in a ticket to IT. I have not heard back from them yet.
Thank you, Kirsten, but we're broadcasting on MCAT.
I usually depend on the broadcast to the website to tell me that we're broadcasting on MCAT.
I can tell you. One moment, please.
Thank you.
We are broadcasting.
And we should be good to go. We're on YouTube and MCAT.
Thank you. I am sorry.
And Mayor, I forgot to mention that Heidi sent a note that she will be here, but she is running a little late.
Do you know, Councilman, whether Ms. Jones will be joining us this evening?
Yes, she will be.
Okay. I'm going to give us just another second or two here.
In fact, there she is.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will call the Missoula City Council meeting of February 8th, 2021 to order. This is a Zoom webinar this evening, and thank you for joining us. I will call for public comment a number of times during the meeting. If you care to comment, please use the raise lower hand feature in Zoom to let me know that you wish to be recognized. I will enable your microphone and recognize you, but you will need to unmute your device. If you've joined us by telephone this evening, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9, and you may mute and unmute by using *6. Also, if you're participating by phone, I'll call on you by reading the last 4 digits of your telephone number. I will note for the record this evening that at the moment, at any rate, all council members are present with the exception of Ms. West, Ms. Becerra, Mr. Ramos, and Mr. Contos. We have minutes of the meeting of February 1st. Without objection, they'll be approved. Seeing none, we will move on to our schedule of committee meetings. Ms. Hands.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Due to President's Day next Monday, the council will not be meeting. So I have prepared a 2-week committee schedule to cover the next couple of Wednesdays. So this Wednesday, February 10th, we have 3 meetings. We start with Parks and Conservation at 10 a.m., then Land Use and Planning at 12:30 p.m., and Administration and Finance at 2:45 p.m. The following Wednesday, February 17th, we have 3 meetings as well. We start with Committee of the Whole at 12:30 p.m., Land Use and Planning Committee at 1:15 p.m., and we round out the day with Administration and Finance at 2:45 p.m.
Thank you. Any changes to the committee schedule? Seeing none. Mr. Nugent, I note that your hand is up. Is that intentional? I'm going to take it that it is not. No changes to the committee schedule at this point. We are at the public comment portion of our agenda. I'm sorry, I'm looking at too many devices at once. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on the agenda this evening. And I see no one in the attendees with a hand up for general public comment. So we will move on to our consent agenda items here, ladies and gentlemen. were approved in council committees to be placed on the consent agenda to save a little time on Monday evenings while we consider these items as a package. Ms. Hands will read the list aloud so those watching on various media will know what we're considering, and we'll invite comment on these items before we vote. Ms. Hands.
Thank you. We have got 4 items on the consent agenda this evening. The first item is to approve claims in the amount of $696,105.20 for checks dated February 9th, 2021. The second item has 2 motions. The first motion is first reading and preliminary adoption to set a public hearing on February 22nd, 2021 and preliminarily adopt an ordinance creating Chapter
Ms.
15.
Hands, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Sorry, is anyone else frozen? Appears to be just me. Sorry for interrupting. Kirsten, go ahead.
No worries at all. So I was reading the 2 motions for our second item. And the first one is first reading and preliminary adoption, set a public hearing on February 22nd, 2021, and preliminarily adopt an ordinance creating Chapter 15.70 Missoula Municipal Code entitled Switipcane Area Transportation Special Impact Fee to establish impact fees for new development in accordance with the results of an official impact fee study commissioned by the City of Missoula for the Mullen Build Grant. The second motion is to set a public hearing on February 22nd, 2021 on a resolution generally establishing the Switipcane Area Special Transportation Impact Fees as proposed by Missoula Public Works and Mobility Department effective March 31st, 2021. Item number 3 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city through its Parks and Recreation Department to apply for a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for Westside Park and Playground. And the last item, number 4, is to adopt a resolution relating to the financing of proposed water system improvements, establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code.
Thank you, Ms. Hands. And anyone in the audience care to comment on any of the consent agenda items this evening? Seeing none, questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, we will have a roll call vote.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Hess? Is Hess present? I saw him a moment ago.
Mr. Hess is present.
Can't hear him.
He's having some audio problems.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm on 2 audio devices. Can you hear me now?
I
We
can't
can't.
hear you, Jordan. This is on
Okay,
the.
I'm joining the
consent agenda.
phone. Yeah, I'm hearing you fine, and I was muted on my phone, and I will vote yes on the consent agenda.
Great, thank you, Jordan. Jones?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Vasika?
Yes.
Von Lossberg?
Yes.
West?
She's running late and hasn't arrived yet.
Oh, my apologies.
Actually, she just arrived.
Would anybody like to change their votes? Heidi, are you prepared to vote on the consent agenda?
Yes, I can. It's yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Would anybody like to change their votes? Seeing none, just a moment. I believe we've got 9 yeses and 3 absent. The program's calculating. Yes, we do. 9 yeses, 3 absent.
And the consent agenda is approved. And for the record, Ms. West has joined us this evening. We have no comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, or the community forum this evening. We do have one special presentation in the form of a proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, whereas the city of Missoula joins with Canada to spur awareness in Montana, the Great Plains region, and the United States for murdered and missing Indigenous women, and whereas there is not a comprehensive estimate of Indigenous women who are missing and murdered in the United States, but many factors contribute to this crisis, such as fear, stigma, legal barriers, racism, sexism, and the devastating levels of violence in the United States. And whereas nearly half of all Native American women in the United States have been raped, beaten, or stalked by an intimate partner, they are 2.5 times more likely to experience sexual assault. 1 in 3 will be raped in her lifetime. And on some reservations, women are murdered at a rate 10 times higher than the national average. And whereas for more than 30 years, there have been awareness raising efforts in Canada on Valentine's Day, and the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's Awareness Day seeks to build support by increasing awareness in the United States. And whereas there has been an increase in human trafficking in Montana due to increased oil activity in the Bakken region, as well as in all areas of the state. On June 15th, 2018, Jermaine Charlo went missing here in Missoula, and investigators believe she may have been kidnapped. Jermaine remains missing. Now, therefore, I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula, do hereby proclaim Sunday, February 14th as Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women Awareness Day in Missoula. This is a tragedy that continues in our community, and we continue through the efforts of our police department and in cooperation with Missoula County, other law enforcement agencies and various agencies engaged in attempting to temper this tragedy. And we will continue until we are no longer seeing the kind of horrors that this community is dealing with. We have no additional special presentations this evening. We do, however, have a number of committee reports. No public hearings this evening, no items for final consideration. I will pass on communications from the mayor this evening and start general comments of council members with Ms. Harp.
I'm going to pass tonight. Thank you.
Ms. Merritt,
I'll pass.
Ms. Cheryl.
Thanks. I was just, I've been thinking a lot about what's going on at the legislature, and I just want to remind people that I know we kind of do this every week, but one thing that I have reflected on during COVID for the city council meetings is that we get a lot of participation. We have a lot of attendees. At one point, someone had commented that we needed to go back in person because we weren't getting as much participation. And I can see on my screen at the time that we had 55 or, that was an odd meeting, but we had a lot of people there. So the reason I say this is that the legislature, which is in Helena, of course, has meetings going all the time and lots of policies coming forward. And it is actually kind of easier to participate via Zoom. So you don't have to drive over there in the blizzard. And I would say to just kind of try to pay attention to what's going on. You do have to sign up 24 hours in advance of the meeting to testify. But, I've been getting feedback from constituents on lots of different things that are coming forward and lots of concerning bills. And they're, as I said a couple of weeks ago, they were coming fast and furious. And I really urge people, we're all at home. I mean, we're all tired of our computers and looking at a screen, or at least anyone that works on one is. But I would just urge you to pay attention and get in there because it's kind of an easy time to participate on that level. So thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl. Ms. West, I would ask you to turn on your video, please. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, gosh. Okay, I'm back. Thank you for the proclamation, and I appreciate bringing awareness to the important issue of murdered and missing Indigenous women. And I just thank you for the work that you've done. And I know that there's lots more to be done, and there are bills in the legislature that are working on funding that. As Ms. Cheryl said, there is a lot of happening at the Montana legislature, and unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately because of COVID, there are more ways for people to participate. So I encourage folks to do so. I do also want to bring to everyone's attention the fact that the Poverello Center put out a call over social media and through their various communications platforms that they have some needs right now because of the anticipated very cold weather that we are about to see, and they could use some additional warm clothing, hats, gloves, hand warmers. Winter has been very mild up until this point, but we are due for a bit of a cold snap and temperatures well below freezing. And even though we have done so much in our community to continue to try to house people, there are still those in our community who are unhoused. And we want to make sure that they have just the bare basic needs. And that is what the Poverello Center is trying to do. So if you can donate some, warm things or some cash for them to be able to purchase some, they would greatly appreciate it. And it would go to good use to keep those in our community warm during this cold snap. So thank you so much.
Ms. Jones.
Thanks. I just wanted to briefly acknowledge the proclamation that you read, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. This is my 6th year on council, and I believe every year that proclamation has been read at the same time each year. It's a huge issue, but I am heartened that in the last couple of years, the state of Montana is starting to put extra resources into addressing this. Still so much work to be done. It should not be the problem that it is. This is a fixable problem, but government moves slowly. I think we all know that. And I think we need to keep the pressure on, and the resources and the extra staff that the state has put towards working on this issue needs to continue to increase. So keep pushing. And in the meantime, my heart goes out to the families that have gone through this, and we need to keep it on the plate. It's an ongoing issue and need to keep working on it. Thanks.
And Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. I also wanted to recognize and thank you for that proclamation that you made. Ms. Cheryl made an excellent point. It is a great time to participate at the legislative level. There's a lot of important things that are going on there that have an impact on everyone's life. So I encourage everyone to get as involved as they can. Ms. Anderson also made a really good point with the homeless shelters. One thing that I've heard that they usually always need is toilet paper. So if you can donate that or donate some funds to do that, that's very important to them. And finally, I wanted to wish my mother a very happy birthday. Thanks.
And Mr. Hess.
Thanks. I want to thank Mayor. I want to thank you for the proclamation, and I want to thank Chairwoman Fayette for being here tonight. It's a devastating and important issue, and if we can shine just a little bit of light on it, it's not enough, but it's an important thing, and so thanks.
And Ms. West.
I was just going to say, don't do what I did and think that you can run an errand right now a normal amount of time. The roads are getting pretty icy, so drive careful.
Thank you, Ms. West. And I apologize. Chairwoman Fayette, I'm happy to recognize you this evening. I didn't realize you were in our attendees until just now. And if you'd care to comment, you are most welcome to. Madam Chair, if you'd like to speak.
Sorry, I couldn't.
There we go.
Unmute. Well, I just wanted to thank you, Mayor, for that proclamation. It's so meaningful when governments such as city councils are able to recognize the problem and join forces with, the tribe and the families that that this terrible crisis affects. And thank you for mentioning Jermaine. She remains in all of our prayers and in our hearts, that she will be found someday and that the family can finally have peace. But I just really like to thank the Missoula City Council for this proclamation, and it just means so much to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time with us this evening. Hope to spend some time with you under better circumstances. We have no additional council comments, but we do have a number of committee reports this evening, beginning with, I'm sorry, Mr. Van Lossberg. Did I miss you? I apologize.
No problem. Very briefly, I just wanted to add my welcome to Chairwoman Fayant and thank my colleagues, Ms. Anderson and Ms. Jones, for their comments about both the proclamation and the needs for the shelter. So thank you.
Thank you. Apologies. It's quite an evening for Zooming tonight for some reason. Sorry, back to committee reports. Items listed here weren't approved unanimously in council standing committees. The chairperson of that committee will make a motion reflecting the committee's action, and we'll invite comments on those items before we vote. Our first item this evening is in the committee of the whole. Mr. Van Lossberg.
Thank you very much. I'll make both motions if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
I move adoption of a resolution of the Missoula City Council to authorize sale of the real property located in the city of Missoula, consisting of the easternmost portion of Lot 3 Scott Street lots and defined as Parcel A in the grant deed to the city, found at Book 1037, page 150 of the records of Missoula County. And the second motion is I recommend we approve the sale and conveyance of Parcel A of Lot 3 Scott Street lots, subject to the conditions and covenants stated in the letter of intent, and authorize the mayor to execute and sign the letter of intent, the purchase agreement, development agreement, and any ancillary documents for the sale and conveyance of the property. And may I speak to those?
You may.
Thanks. Want to thank everybody who's been involved with this. And if you don't all mind, I wanted to go back. This is a historic opportunity for the community, for the North Side, for my Ward 1 colleague and I, and lots of other people. And I wanted to just contrast briefly two different visions that go back in time to, I believe it was around 2013, 2014. I want to read a section from a memo about the anticipated future use of the site prepared by some attorneys for the responsible party for the cleanup. And then I want to contrast that with a different vision. The memo, from the memo, it says, historically, housing east of Scott Street accommodated workers employed by White Pine Sash, Clausen Manufacturing, or the railroad. White Pine Sash at one time employed more than 200 workers, and the area east of Scott Street was a convenient location. Now that White Pine Sash and Clausen Manufacturing are out of business, there are far fewer workers on the property, and employees desiring housing close to their workplace are limited. In fact, there are several houses that are for sale or vacant in the area east of Scott Street. This is an indication that there is little desire or need to live by the property. Moreover, in recent decades, there is no longer a need to live close to work because most workers are mobile and own a car or truck. Additionally, most people do not desire to live in the proximity of the railroad yard due to the noise and problems associated with the transient population. And this was from a memo arguing that that area was always going to be, only for commercial use, and we should not clean it up to a higher standard. The first thing I worked on council was a resolution. It was Resolution 7861, and I want to thank the city's chief municipal planning official from before the time I served, Mike Barton. He pointed out in to a different vision of this area and property. And he pointed out that it's adjacent to a park and a residential neighborhood. It's convenient to downtown and the north side, and that the property is flanked to the north by recent residential development. And lastly, from the joint north side and west side neighborhood plan, and I apologize if my internet connection got a note it was unstable, but that neighborhood plan vision statement reads, the neighbor's vision for the integration of commercial, industrial, and residential uses attempts to balance the need for jobs, services, and neighborhood economic stability with the equally pressing need for healthy residential neighborhoods. And whereas the neighborhood plan encourages an appropriate mix of residential and commercial activities that protects the residential character of the neighborhoods and honors the traditional coexistence of residential, small business, and light industrial uses. So thanks for indulging me reading those two conflicting visions of the area. I will concisely say that I am glad beyond words that the neighbor's vision for that area that was a bigger, more housing centric and hopeful vision is the vision that is prevailing. So thank you.
And Ms. Jones.
Thanks, Brian, for your great words. And it kind of feeds into what I wanted to say. I'm very much in favor of this. And I was thinking back on all of the different pieces that came together to make this happen. And it did start back when you and Heidi especially were weighed in terms of making sure the cleanup was to a higher standard, which was crucial. But I wanted to just kind of talk about the fact that so much work has gone into this to get this to this point today. The MRA spent a lot of time looking at this area, and last August purchased the property so that this is now a tool that we can use in this equation. And a lot of work went into that. I think back in 2010 or 2011, the Missoula Economic Partnership was created after the 2008 recession. And that is really a powerhouse in Missoula now. And MEP was the venue to bring the different parties together between the city administration and MRA and the opportunity zone status and developers to have the discussions to get to the right equation again on this project. And then I'm really pleased that we have a local developer who just has certain values they really want to implement through this project in terms of affordable housing and creating a community. And all of that all of these different moving parts have gone into creating this great project that I'm so happy about. And I think we talk so much about affordable housing. It's such a huge issue. But this project creates affordable housing, but it does so much more. It creates homes, it creates communities because it's thoughtful design. It's going to incorporate some intentional commercial components that create a good community. It's going to incorporate some childcare facility that will really help the quality of life. So it's not just creating more units, it's really creating a wonderful livable environment, which I think is something we've got to keep in mind with all of our affordable housing projects. We don't always have these tools at our disposal, but it's all coming together beautifully in this project, and I'm just so pleased. So I think that's all I had to say. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you've worked a lot behind the scenes for years on this project and these types of projects, and I'm so excited that it's going forward.
Ms. Merritt.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for those comments, Gwen and Brian. It just all came together for this project. And what I wanted to mention is that idea that with all those pieces that came together, this is really a win-win type of situation. And we've heard, I guess what I wanted to contrast that with is some comments that we've heard recently just really pushing for mandatory inclusionary zoning to happen here in Missoula. And in my thinking about that, I have, I look at projects like this and see that we get a much better outcome with where everybody is participating in the process because they want to be there, and everyone's coming to the table, bringing everything that they can to it. And that I believe that this is the future that we should really look at, is these win-win situations. And instead of the stick, I think we need to keep bringing the carrot. And that's what I see this project as. And that this is going to be, when it's built, the largest affordable home ownership opportunity in the state. Is just very exciting. And yes, thank you so much to all of the participants who are making this happen.
Ms. Hart?
Thank you. Echoing some of those same comments my colleagues mentioned, this is definitely an ambitious, audacious, and yet achievable plan. And I'm really very proud of all the partners across all the sectors, government, private sector, and nonprofit, to make this actually come together. I think what Brian was alluding to is really how much time a growth policy and a housing policy, policy framework. And now we are at a point that we finally implement all of that hard work. And it just, I guess, illustrates we don't have time on our side going forward to really address our affordable or attainable housing stock. But here we are with a moment before us that we can all unite around this. And it illustrates it takes to get the work done. So I am proudly in favor of this project.
Ms. Wasika?
Thanks. I just had a couple, or I guess I just had one main question. I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but I was curious, when it's all said and done, what would the total cost per unit be to the city of Missoula?
The city of Missoula won't have a cost per unit. Or are you talking about the?
So I guess I'm just a little bit
residents?
confused, because so the city of Missoula currently owns this property, and then so we're selling this property to a separate entity, and then are we partnering with that entity to provide the affordable housing, or is it all on that private entity to be in charge of that affordable housing unit?
It's all private development.
Oh, okay. I guess that's all of my questions then. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Cheryl?
Thanks. Also, I just want to thank everyone that's been involved in this project. It precedes me by a fair amount of time. I'm going to be voting for it, and I am really proud to do so. Thank you to the mayor that has been involved in this for many, many years. I don't even know how many, but a lot. And then my colleagues, Heidi and Brian, and everyone else who's been involved in it. So I think this is when we had our presentation on Wednesday, which I thought was fabulous, and really showed the complexity of this project and the creativity. I mean, we have partners, like my colleagues have said, Missoula Economic Partnership, we've got developers, we've got housing advocates, we've got MRA. I mean, they're coming to the table because this is a great project and they believe in the vision, and this is going to be a really good thing for Missoula. So I just feel like we have buy-in on so many levels, and it's going to be a great project. It's going to be a livable community. It's going to be a great plan to create a lot of affordable housing, which is a big thing that we talk about in council and something that our community desperately needs. So I am going to, I'm just thankful for everyone that got it this far, which was not me, but I will happily be taking it hopefully over the finish line.
Ms. West?
Thank you. Hopefully my internet connection will hold out, and we also have dueling Zoom calls happening at our house right now. I think there are a couple of things I want to highlight. And first of all, I want to thank Brian for going all the way back and reading some of the language that was used 10 years ago when this record of decision was published, and how much it devalued our, I guess the place we call home and the people that make it home, and how different that vision was from the reality of what we know and have in Missoula. I think this is the best thing that could have happened as far as being in an opportunity zone and being able to direct the development that's happening in our neighborhood with a really great group of partners. I think as someone who lives in the opportunity zone, I really felt like there was potential for development by people who didn't know the needs of local residents from money and people outside of our community. And I think that this project really, by having a local place-based group that is investing in our community, really is at a level where it can be responsive and informed by local needs. And that's super exciting. So a couple things I want to highlight is that it will have a daycare facility, which we need desperately in this neighborhood. It will also have a significant investment in permanently affordable home ownership, which is also something we need as a community. And it will also add $1.7 million right about there to the Housing Trust Fund, which will bring the total committed to the fund this year to $2,450,000. That is significant considering this was established not that long ago. And the last thing I want to say is that I think everybody recognizes that our neighborhood is changing rapidly, that we're absorbing a whole lot of density, and that we're aware of that. So this development isn't happening without a commitment to also mitigate, transportation issues and public land access issues that might arise from this density. So I think the outcome of what will happen here and what all these partners have brought to the table is just the best possible thing that that I could have imagined, 10 years ago. So I appreciate everyone who's made this possible, and I support it. Thanks.
Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to keep my comments brief because so many of my colleagues pointed out such excellent reasons why to support this project. And I do want to highlight the fact that we have heard a lot of comments over the time I've been on council about how MRA is something that is a detriment to our community, and it only helps out corporations and its corporate welfare. Well, without the MRA, this project would not be possible. They're the entity that was able to secure the total piece of property this summer that we are now able to sell part of. So it, all of those times where people were upset about, the money going for deconstruction or facade improvements and all of those things, that was what was needed to come first before we now have the opportunity to do this project that has a direct benefit to our community. And so I want to put that piece together for folks, because I think that a lot of folks are paying attention to this project, are really excited, as they absolutely should be, but understand all the various components that went into making this project possible. And the exciting part about this is that we still have additional acreage at this site that we have at our disposal that will play into other pieces of what we're doing and hoping to move facility, city maintenance and facility to an area where, because of the contamination, wouldn't be affordable or suitable for housing that allows for other opportunities. So there is a bigger plan here, and it's so exciting that this particular piece has come into place so quickly and in such an exciting way. And I think that the other thing that I want to point out is a lot of talk about affordable housing, but what I think this particular project is doing is actually building community and creating community, because it's not just housing. There'll be a commercial component to it, and there'll be a mixed type of housing, and utilizing best practices to really make a desirable community, which is what I think we always try to achieve, especially with opportunities like this. And I'm really excited by what they're able to do with this. So, and because of that, because we have a local partner in this, I just am even more excited, and I think it will really reflect the needs and the values of Missoula. They will continue to partner with the neighborhood that will be affected to, incorporate what they want to hear or what they need to see, what their needs and desires are, to make it something that's good for not only the community that is directly adjacent to this property, but the larger Missoula community as a whole. And because we are so fortunate to have the intersection of a local partner who was able to find outside funding, there's a lot of growth happening in Missoula, and a lot of times our people don't feel that they're having a say. Well, because of this local partnership, I think it will be an even richer product and something that's better for all of our community. And I just really want to thank the partners locally and, Dawn and Mary and their team for willing to, kind of continue after the first funder fell through, to continue to try to find an additional funder to make this happen. And we're really excited and grateful for your partnership and your passion and love for Missoula. So thank you so much.
Mr. Hess.
Thank you, Mayor. I am really pleased to support this tonight. As Mr. Von Lossberg pointed out, this was we came out of council at the same time, a little over 7 years ago now, and this was one of the first things that we took up through the resolution 7861 to encourage cleaning this area up to a residential standard. And I had to kind of chuckle a little bit when Brian read the two different accounts of how this area might develop. I live a handful of blocks. I'm on the other side of the tracks, but I live really close to this area, and I couldn't be more proud of what is coming in, or what is coming in the future in this area. This is a wonderful, vibrant neighborhood, and the development at Scott Street is going to just further contribute to that. We've seen where our housing market goes left to its own devices over the last several months. We've seen double-digit increases in our cost of housing, and this is a deliberate intervention in our housing market, and it's going to make a big difference. And I think it's important to point out that this needle was threaded very carefully over really a decade of advocacy and action and planning. It was the result of an involved neighborhood, of committed staff, and of a long-term vision. And this development is going to, this development uses tools from our A Place to Call Home housing policy. It utilizes community land trust to provide permanent affordability, and it utilizes our land banking strategy. We are on a square foot basis. We acquired this land less than a year ago, and we will sell it within a year of acquiring it on a per square foot basis for the same cost that we bought it for. And so that's a financial break-even point for the city of Missoula. But what it does is it inserts our ability to influence the project. And so what we get in that period of land banking is the opportunity to cultivate partnerships, the opportunity to apply our policies, the opportunity to make this be used for the highest and best use. All in, it's a great project. I said this on Wednesday that in my 7 years now on council, if I could count on my hands, on my fingers, the most impactful, most memorable projects in that tenure, This would be one of them, and it absolutely is. It's a big deal. It's a good development, and it's something we should all be proud of. I'm happy to support it.
Thank you all. Seeing no additional comment from council members, anyone in the audience care to comment this evening? Seeing no hands there, I will simply say that I've been kicking tires on this piece of property for the better part of 20 years, and I couldn't be more delighted that staff, through its diligence and work with the private sector, is able to do something with a bow on it. And I appreciate your support and all of the effort that has gone into making something pretty remarkable happen here. I would recommend that Good Works Ventures change its name to Great Works Ventures, but I'll leave that for the private sector to sort. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a roll call vote on the two resolutions.
On both of the motions, Anderson,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
and West.
Yes.
Would anyone like to change their votes? We have 9 yeses and 3 absent.
Thank you. That's unanimity on that, on those resolutions this evening. Thank you, folks. Our second committee report this evening comes from the Public Safety and Health Committee. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we will be moving out of committee a do not support of a resolution of the Missoula City Council on firearm safety. And I just want to take this opportunity to clarify a small error I made when announcing the vote tallies on Wednesday in committee. That came out of committee with 3 yeses, 8 nos, and 1 absence. So the committee is moving forward a do not pass recommendation for the entire body to consider. And if you would allow, I'd like to quickly speak on it.
Yeah, so as a technical matter, would you simply make the motion, please, Ms. Anderson?
Okay, hold on, let me get to that screen. The recommended motion is to deny a resolution of the Missoula City Council on firearm safety.
Thank you. And you may speak to the motion.
Okay, very quickly, I'll speak to this. We had quite a bit of discussion about this in committee, and I think that all of us on council agree that we should be promoting firearm safety, and we want any preventable gun death in our community be prevented. But what I think we disagreed on this resolution was how to best go about it and where our purview as a council intersects with what recommendation should be made and given to the school district, given it's its own governing body and entity and has ways in which curriculum is recommended. So I think that we agree on the general concept of firearm safety and understand that we live in a culture and a community that does have firearms, but how to go best about doing that, given this particular resolution, I do not feel that this is necessarily within our purview or the best way of going about doing it. So I will not be in support. Thank you.
On the motion, Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. Last week I was asked a couple of questions, so I wanted to clarify those questions and speak to the motion a little bit. The first question that I was asked was, is there any evidence of the Be Safe program being successful? It is estimated that the Be Safe program has been delivered to 250,000 Montana children since its inception. When non-school presenters presented the Be Safe to school classrooms for MSSA, the presenter leaves an evaluation form with the classroom teacher. Among other questions asked on the evaluation form, one question asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 low and 10 high, how valuable do you think this presentation was for your students? The average of those answers is 9.99. Thus, classroom teachers to whose students Be Safe has been delivered think the program is very valuable. Second question was, has the Be Safe program been implemented in schools in Montana? Yes, it's been implemented in lots of schools. First, 2 superintendents of public instruction, 1 Democrat and 1 Republican, have endorsed this Be Safe program. They have both distributed Be Safe to every elementary school in Montana to make it widely available. The Be Safe brochure is printed with a disclaimer of copyright to encourage any interested person or entity to copy it, and other states have it as well. So there's no record of how many schools in Montana have used it, but we know it's lots. The preferred mechanism of Be Safe delivery, because we think schools and teachers are asked to do too much parenting, they want an outside person to prepare for the presentation and come into the school to deliver the program. They try to recruit people for this who have teaching credentials, both so that they will know something about how to navigate the system, and so the schools will find the person and presenter more agreeable. Then they try to get a local sportsman's group to pay the presenter for the time spent in the classroom. In the Missoula area, the Western Montana Fish and Game Association has allocated the funds to pay such teacher or presenter. It is estimated that the Western Montana Fish and Game Association has paid about $15,000 in the past decade for Be Safe delivery in Missoula area schools. And speaking about the Western Montana Fish and Game Association, I wanted to recognize that they are an active participant in Be Safe, Hunter's Ed, and adult firearm safety education. They're a strong proponent of this resolution. That organization also owns and operates the Deer Creek Shooting Center between East Missoula and Bonner, where the Missoula Police Department uses and depends on the Deer Creek Shooting Center for its firearms training and periodic qualifications. A third question was where the statistics of 90 to 95% of Montana households have guns come from. It's an educated guess bolstered by some informal survey work. MSSA looked at hunting license sales, firearm sales, ammunition sales, and more to come up with a reasonable, accurate number. Obviously, there'll be variations by community and within communities. For example, Eureka and Ekalaka may be 100% gun ownership rates, while the University District of Missoula might be as low as 50%, but there's no data about that. The fourth question was why grades 1 through 3? It was never imagined having the resources to teach all the kids or to reach all the kids. In their experience, older kids tend to be less receptive to the gun safety message as the younger set. So when they originally embarked on design of the Be Safe program, they consulted education experts at Montana's Office of Public Instruction, and they confirmed that their appreciation of the most receptive age range for this message. It is preferred to get the safety message to the more receptive younger group, and then let them age into a higher risk age group with the safety message on board. Also, it was a concern of some of my council members that this was overstepping our jurisdiction. I do disagree on that due to the fact that this resolution is purely saying that the city backs these programs if schools choose to incorporate them. It's not required of them. The city council has many other times asked other governmental organizations to support or encourage or to do certain things. For example, the council asked the Missoula County Commission to adopt a local option motor fuel excise tax. This was not requiring the county to do anything, it was purely asking them. The council requested distribution of Bridge and Road Safety Accountability Program funds from the Montana Department of Transportation. This is not forcing the DOT to do anything. It was purely a request. The council supported Congress's Land and Water Conservation Fund. This is purely a resolution showing their support. The council asked the Missoula County Election Administrator to certain dates and provide ballot boxes. Again, this was not requiring the election administrator to do anything. If my safety resolution is overstepping our jurisdiction by supporting the Be Safe and Hunter safety programs, then it can be argued that all of those previous resolutions of support to other jurisdictions, such as Missoula County and Congress, are overstepping as well. I also wanted to reiterate that this resolution is purely promoting and encouraging these programs, not requiring them. I stated very clearly last week, and I quote, "I want to be clear, this is purely promoting, not requiring firearm safety and providing resources," end quote. However, this somehow got lost in translation, and a local media outlet stated that this resolution requires the Be Safe program. I don't know how to be more clear. This is not requiring, it is purely promoting these programs. Finally, last week during committee, I mentioned many times that I'm open to compromise with this resolution. As Ms. Anderson stated, this is purely about safety. It's not or she didn't state that, but it is purely about safety. We do have common ground. This is not an anti-gun or a pro-gun resolution. I want to find common ground to agree on, and I was disappointed that there was not any proposed amendments to this resolution, because I said many times that I'm willing to compromise. I want to work on this together with all of my council members to find an agreement to encourage gun safety in our community. And I hope that tonight or maybe another night we can figure out how to come together on this, find some common ground, and pass something that we can agree on. Thank you.
I apologize, folks. I just got bounced from our meeting. We're clearly having some connectivity issues this evening. I have Mr. Von Lossberg.
Thanks. I want to begin with the same recognition that I shared in committee, which is to words of appreciation for where we have shared values with Ms. Vasika and the other co-sponsors that aren't here tonight around firearm safety training, hunter safety training. There is shared value around those things. I know a thing or two about bringing forward information or any kind of action having to do with firearms. And I respect Ms. Vasika for doing it all too often. And in fact, 99% of the time, I would say. Anything having to do with firearms gets boiled down to heated talking points and fantasy, and gets away from actual data-driven efficacy and considerations that are that hold the community's greater good at the forefront. As a couple of my colleagues have said in recent weeks, words matter, and I don't think we could have gone through a period of time over the last several years where we could have had a better lesson in that very fact that words matter. And beyond the general consensus around shared values around firearm safety and hunter safety, the words in this resolution, and specifically the curriculum and the recommendations on private transactions missed the mark, and they missed the mark by a wide margin. And I won't support this resolution for that reason. This issue of jurisdictional boundary, I wouldn't describe it as a jurisdictional issue. This resolution speaks to curriculum, stuff that takes place in a classroom, stuff that would take place in a classroom with my third grade student in that classroom. And I don't know how to make it any more clear that there is a distinction between what this political body does in all of those examples that were presented and educational curriculum matters that are properly vetted through the district and the school board and their processes for educational consideration. There's a distinct difference between these two approaches, and I've supported, I think, virtually everything that was mentioned as an example, and there's a clear distinction between those efforts and what this effort is. We could go on at some length about other actions and language in the words matter theme associated with the Montana Shooting Sports Association, but I won't waste anyone's time in going through that. I will not be supporting the resolution tonight. Thanks.
Cheryl.
Thank you. And I first want to, I think, echo what my colleagues have said, that I want to thank Sandra for bringing this forward, because I do believe that her intention is gun safety. And I think that is something that we can find common ground on. As I articulated on Wednesday, my issues around this are that it's a curriculum issue. It is a jurisdictional issue to me. I was not elected to set curriculum, and I don't believe I'm the right person to do that, to be quite honest. I think some of the examples are little apples to oranges of kind of some of the things we've done. But, the other thing for me is I would really need, if I could get over this body not being the right body to set curriculum, if I could get over that, I would need to look at what is developmentally appropriate for that age group. And I would need to hear from pediatricians and psychologists, school counselors. We haven't heard from any of them. I don't purport to understand what is developmentally appropriate at that age. It's very young. I mean, my kids were learning to tell time, I think, then, and sound out syllables of words. So that seems really young to me. But again, I was not hired for that either. So even though I really do appreciate this being brought forward, and I think that that we all agree that gun safety, especially in a state that has a gun culture and a hunting culture, is really important. I just don't think that this is the right resolution or the right body to do what is being proposed. But I do thank her for bringing it forward.
And Ms. Merritt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for my colleagues. Respectfully, I have to say that the examples that Ms. Vasica just provided about cross-jurisdictional resolutions that this body has passed recently I have no comparison to this resolution whatsoever. In the case with MDT over road taxes and the county with elections, those are things that both of those bodies have responsibility for, and it makes perfect sense that we pass resolutions that include both of those jurisdictions. More specifically to this resolution, the first part of this resolution is nothing but a shameless plug for one man and his organization, an organization that has spent decades as professional lobbyists for the so-called gun culture. It's incredibly inappropriate for us to adopt any resolution that supports one particular lobbying group on such a multifaceted issue. As is evidenced by Mr. Marbut's own testimony, the only gun safety training Mr. Marbut is interested in and that he supports for schools is his own, even though he admittedly has no education or experience in creating developmentally appropriate curriculum for students of any grade level. In the last legislative session, a group of students helped craft HB 477, which would have amended state law to allow for the Office of Public Instruction to develop and maintain firearm safety education. I would like to share with you a couple of the quotes from Mr. Marbut's testimony against HB 477. And here's just a few of the items. And I quote here, "Schools are asked to do too much parenting." That was part of his opposition to HB 477. And in suggesting that he would like to recruit the proponents of HB 477, Mr. Marbut stated, quote, "We can do better than the 48% of the national average in terms of kid gun misadventures, but we don't think we need more laws to do that. Beyond the reprehensible statement that reduces the tragedy and trauma of children harming and killing themselves or others after gaining access to irresponsibly stored firearms as simple misadventures, Mr. Marbut's stated basis for opposing HB 477 is because he believes we do not need more laws on this topic. So why is he now asking this legislative body to create another law about gun safety training? Mr. Marbut only apparently wants his training to be offered, resulting in the promotion of his gun lobbying organization. Perhaps the most objectionable part of all of this is that Mr. Marbut and the Montana Shooting Sports Association want to ensure that the entire onus of gun safety be placed on children, while they have simultaneously resisted efforts to educate adults about safe storage of firearms and to hold adults accountable when they fail to safely store firearms, resulting in injury and death. If this resolution promoted proven gun safety training programs for children and adults across our community, I could support it. However, as it stands, I cannot. Thank you.
And Ms. Jones.
Thanks. I first just wanted to say that it's hard bringing stuff to city council, but I think that's our job, and we bring things and we discuss them and we have a community conversation and then we move forward. So Ms. Vasica, I think gun safety is a topic in this community, and I appreciate you bringing this, but I am not in favor of it, and a lot's been said, so I'll just make it brief. But my dad grew up on a ranch in eastern Montana where they had rifles and used them for hunting and putting down livestock when necessary, and it was really a tool and nothing more than that. And I think philosophically, I just diverge very much from Mr. Marbut's philosophy. I think, although we have the Second Amendment, I think we just need less guns in America. We just are creating a gun culture that I don't approve of. To me, guns are a tool, and it is nothing that you carry around town and brandish, and you don't carry them onto campuses or anything like that. So that's a bigger conversation, but I feel like a lot of that philosophy is embedded in Mr. Marbut's documentation. And I also just feel like this is a conversation in terms of the curriculum that needs to be had at the school board. It's out of our lane, basically. And with that, I'll call a question.
Pardon me, and Ms. Vasica?
Thanks. I just wanted to mention respectfully, Ms. Merritt, you say that Mr. Marbut only wants his training in there, and all this discussion is about Mr. Marbut. This is my resolution. I am okay with compromising and taking things out and putting other things in. I asked last week if you had any other curriculum or any other programs that you would recommend, and I didn't receive anything from you. So I am perfectly willing to compromise with everyone on this, to omit some parts, bring in new parts. And I haven't seen any amendments or opportunities to do that. So I hope that in the future, if this ever comes up again, that you would be willing to work with me on that. And then I did have a procedural question. Since the motion is to deny this resolution, what would a yes vote entail and what would a no vote entail?
Yes is no. A vote yes, an affirmative vote kills the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. And seeing no additional comment from council members, we do have one audience member. And pardon me. And Ms. Weichel, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, you are. Can you all hear me?
We can, thank you.
Perfect. Well, my name is Roxanne Weichel. I'm a parent, grandma, and a gun owner, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my husband, Bill, and myself. And just briefly, just so you know, I have a little bit of experience in education. I did development of nurse training and implementation of nurse training for several years in my career. However, that is definitely not educating children. And I appreciate the concern about keeping our children safe and specifically about firearm safety. However, in my view, the Be Safe brochure is not it. The messaging is just not appropriate. And the resolution as it's written really recommends this brochure specifically. The brochure really does not have an appropriate message. If there is an appropriate message, as a few groups that have done this kind of education have stated, it should be something like don't touch, leave, and find an adult. The message in this brochure starts out with don't touch. If a friend plays with a real gun, leave and tell an adult. So in my view, even the initial message on this brochure is inappropriate. The bulk of the brochure, however, focuses on how to touch a gun. The muzzle direction, never point a gun at a person, keep your finger off the trigger. This is confusing since the message really needs to be, at this age, don't touch, leave it, and tell an adult. The brochure goes on to paint a picture of how you will grow up to get your first BB gun and then a .22 rifle. So in my view, the message is totally inappropriate. It's confusing. It's not designed to get results for first through third graders, and it has not been tested in terms of changing behavior and getting the desired outcomes. And let me just add that I informally asked a few educators at School District 1 about this kind of approach. And we did not spend a lot of time on it, but I was humbled by their responses. One comment was that a one-time educational program like this is just not effective. A one-time presentation can actually be harmful. And a comment from one of the teachers was, it's really best to focus on what you want them to do and how to process it. So you would say to the students, what would you do if you saw something unsafe at a friend's house? What would it be? Who would you tell? Tell me exactly where you would go, who you would trust and who you would tell, and what would you say? And to me, that really hit me because I offer this to illustrate that any education for kids should be developed by experts, people who educate kids. It needs to be evidence-based training resulting in the desired behavior. So bottom line is gun safety. The best practice is the responsibility is on adults to store guns safely, unloaded, locked, out of sight, and out of reach of kids with ammunition stored separately. And this is supported by major reputable organizations such as the CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, Safe Kids Worldwide, Seattle Children's, Everytown for Gun Safety, Brady, etc. So I'd like to also just mention that the resolution addresses the responsibility of private sales of firearms. And I concur, this is an immense responsibility in selling a gun to the wrong person. A friend of ours that we have dinner with said years ago, he sold a gun to someone in a private sale. He said later, the police were knocking on his door. The gun had been used in a robbery. This is an avid gun owner, avid hunter, and he said, I'll never do that again. A private sale deserves a background check. So thank you so much for providing the opportunity for me to provide public comment. And I urge you to vote against this resolution, which I guess is a yes vote. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Ms. Weichel. And Ms. Fadness.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to talk tonight. I am Danette Fadness, Missoula resident, mother, grandmother, a child injury prevention and suicide prevention educator. I'm here to say that the Be Safe program is not developmentally appropriate for 6 to 8-year-old kids, and it lacks best practice firearm safety measures. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, Safe Kids Worldwide, Everytown for Gun Safety, the Be Smart program, and suicide prevention programs all agree the onus is on adults to keep kids safe by responsibly storing their guns unloaded, locked, and out of reach and sight of youth with ammunition locked and stored separately. It is always an adult's responsibility to keep kids safe and prevent unauthorized access to guns, not a curious kid's responsibility to avoid guns. However, it is still important to teach kids to not touch guns if they find one and to tell an adult right away. However, simply talking to children about guns is a precaution, not a guarantee of safety. Kids are curious and they may find and touch an unsecured gun, even if they've been told not to. If a child handles a gun, a bad decision can quickly become a fatal one. Each year in the United States, nearly 300 children aged 17 and under gain access to a firearm and unintentionally shoot themselves or someone else. And over 600 more children die by suicide by gun each year. Suicide is often an impulsive act, and in as little as 5 minutes from thought to follow through with easy access to fatal means, we are losing our youth. 80% of these youth gained access to the firearm at home or a relative's home. Firearm safety best practice places the onus on adults to keep kids safe from guns, unlike the Be Safe brochure that seeks to gun-proof our kids. Although parents often believe their kids do not know where their guns are stored, research shows 70% know where they are stored and 35% of them have accessed the guns without their parents' knowledge. Kids are curious, so don't touch is an astonishingly useless thing to tell first to third graders. In a congressional report by the Government Accountability Office, they found that teaching kids not to touch firearms is highly ineffective, noting most of the kids were able to verbally recall the safety message, but when the children found a gun, they did not leave the area nor tell an adult during the assessment. They found this method was only effective with intensive training, which this brochure clearly cannot provide. The brochure lacks these best practice safety measures and seeks to normalize gun access for children, noting their parents let the kids spend as much time as they want looking at the guns, talking about gun safety, as they will soon be ready for their first .22 rifles. During my injury prevention work, I've talked to thousands of families and given out more than 5,000 gun locks to give families the tools to practice responsible gun storage and keep kids safe. The majority of this brochure, 11 of about 15 paragraphs, glamorizes guns and teaches kids how to touch guns, making it seem like because a child received this brief education, they're ready to handle firearms, which endangers children and may give families a false sense of security, which could become fatal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fatness. Seeing no additional comment, we have had a robust discussion and we will pivot to a roll call vote.
So to deny the resolution, Anderson,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Hess, Jordan,
Sorry, double muted. Yes.
thank you. Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Besika,
No.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
and West.
Yes.
Would anyone like to change their votes? Seeing none. We have 8 yeses, 1 no, and 3 absent.
And the resolution fails. Our final committee reports this evening come from Public Works. Mr. Hess, pinch hitting for Ms. Becerra.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies while I get to the right screen here. Mayor, may I make both of these motions at once?
You may.
Okay, so first I move that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Eric Maurer to purchase the property at 1337 West Broadway for a cost not to exceed $550,000. And second, that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with John and Mark Bakula to purchase property at 1359 West Broadway for a cost not to exceed $225,000. And may I speak to the motions?
Mr. Hess.
Okay, so these are both properties, as we heard in committee, that are adjacent to Missoula Water, and they are strategic acquisitions for us. They allow us to consolidate our land ownership in the vicinity of Missoula Water, which has a couple of benefits. First, on the short term, it allows us to expand our public works office space. That will allow us to co-locate our stormwater utility activity along with Missoula Water activities, and to provide additional office space in a environment that's cramped and in need of additional space. So there's a short-term need here. The other is that we're talking about prime real estate here. We have a couple of blocks that are proximate to downtown, that are adjacent to the river, that are on one of the main arterials through downtown Missoula, that have tremendous redevelopment opportunities. The city of Missoula has a much greater opportunity to facilitate and steer that redevelopment when we control all that land. And so this goes back to that land banking strategy that I was talking about earlier, where if we are able to assemble some land that's adjacent to land that we already own, it allows us to meet our short-term goals for office space and for utility needs, and layer on top of that the ongoing redevelopment opportunities. This is also a half a block from the Sleepy Inn, which was acquired just over a year ago as a non-congregate shelter. And so we're really coming together with the opportunity to take an area that is underutilized and turn it into something that is a tremendous community asset. So short term, it's good operational sense. Long term, it's strategic, and I'm happy to support both motions.
Discussion on the motion, Ms. Wasika.
Thanks. I had a question and then a comment. The question is, did we look into leasing these properties instead of purchasing them?
We did not.
Okay. So like Mr. Hess said, these properties are prime real estate. I don't think that the city should get into the real estate business with this. It's very close to downtown. It's riverfront, basically. I think that we should not take this opportunity away from any the private sector, because like Mr. Hess said, prime real estate. Also, I do understand that the water company is expanding, so I probably would be in support of this if it was leasing these buildings, but I think that we can find other buildings that are not in this location to lease for the growing Missoula Water Company. So therefore, I will not be in support of this motion.
Ms. Anderson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And I will be in support of this motion because I think it's an incredibly strategic decision on behalf of the water company. They are expanding, they are serving the growing population of Missoula, and one of these buildings is directly adjacent. So to be able to expand the office space will literally just be, breaking down a wall. And so that is in the immediate addressing a need that this utility has, and it is a public service that we are providing to our residents here in Missoula. And I actually respectfully disagree with Ms. Wasika in whether or not the city should be in the business of this. The project that we are all so excited to talk about earlier with the Scott Street project would not have been possible if the city had not been involved in that. So I think that when it's strategic and serves a short range goal and a long range goal, this is exactly what we should be doing. And I think that it's also important to highlight the fact that this is being we are paying fair market value. So it's not like we're cheating out somebody from the private sector from purchasing this. The second is that the way in which we are purchasing this is utilizing enterprise funds. And, you haven't spent time in public works or on council, sometimes it may be like, well, what's enterprise funds? What's general funds? Where's my tax dollars go? This is the fees collected for the service provided by turning on your tap and getting Missoula water. And because we own it as a public utility and not a private company who's beholden to paying shareholder dividends, we have money to reinvest in water line expansion, maintenance, as well as providing additional office space to better serve the public. So once again, highlights the strategic advantage of owning this water and utilizing the funds to meet a short-term and long-range term. And it just shows when we're all kind of thinking about it in a holistic way, we have more opportunities to utilize the various tools in our tool chest to, serve the immediate needs of those water customers, as well as kind of key pieces for our long-range plans for the city. So I will be supporting this.
Ms. Merritt?
Thanks, Mayor. And Ms. Anderson's comments just brought to my mind a point that I guess I kind of have a question or a request for clarification. From the referral, it describes that Missoula Water is currently in the process of also selling some surplus properties. So Mayor, maybe you or Dale could speak to that. Are we expecting that this is basically gonna be an even Steven when it's done, as far as what we're paying for this property and the properties that we're anticipating selling?
Our intention, thank you, Ms. Merritt. Our intention is to certainly use the proceeds from those sales to offset this expense. These are a variety of remainder parcels or parcels that are simply too big for our needs today, as the system has evolved. We think that there is a ballpark break even here, but the vagaries of the market and other factors are at play, but that's the intent, yes.
Okay, thank you. I will be in support of the motions.
And Ms. West?
Thank you. I'm also in support of this motion. I think that this is a very well-reasoned and intentional strategic step. I think that this part of the Broadway corridor and the Clark Fork River corridor has not been developed in a way that puts this area to the highest and best use. And I think that this sets us up for a future in which that can happen. Land banking is something that is called out in our housing policy as something that is part of providing more affordable housing options for all Missoulians in the future. And this sets us up between the existing water utility property, the Sleepy Inn, which was recently acquired. It sets the city of Missoula as being a major landowner and player in this part of town, which also means that the public will have a greater say of what is going to happen here in the future. And I think that is really invaluable. I don't think we can even imagine what this will become and what the real benefit is of this to the future. So I will support it.
Ms. Hart?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be supporting this project similar to the Scott Street project itself. This is really just kind of folds into this game of chess that we play, trying to figure out where do we best optimize our intentions around how we, I guess, create the best organization that we can as our community grows. And we all know it, that we are put in the various different tech in order to see that strategy through. I think this particular purchase of those two buildings into this, it's been yeoman's work.
Ms. Cheryl?
Thanks. I'll be brief. I will be supporting this. I think part of our job is to be anticipating and responding to community needs. And I think that this does that. This is part of that. I mean, companies anticipate their future needs, right? Like any private company does that. And for sure, as a municipality that needs to provide for the community in the future, we need to be anticipating and responding to those in a thoughtful way ahead of time. I mean, that's kind of how it works. So I will be supporting it, and I'm happy that it's being brought forward.
And seeing no further discussion, I see no hands raised among participants to comment this evening. We will have a roll call vote on the resolutions.
So vote on both of the agreements. Anderson,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Besika,
No.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
and West.
Yes.
Would anyone like to change their votes? We have 8 yeses, 1 no, and 3 absent.
And the resolutions are approved. Thank you. We have no additional committee reports this evening. Our lone item of new business is our legislative update and action on bills. You're all in receipt of Mr. McDonald's report. That's also published to our agenda. Any questions or concerns or discussion for the good of the order this evening? All right, seeing none, we will continue our daily relentless monitoring of action at the legislature in defense and support of the city of Missoula. Are there any additional items to be referred this evening? Seeing none, any miscellaneous communications, reports, petitions, or announcements? And seeing none of those, as always, I thank you for your service, and we will be adjourned.